Hello and welcome back, everyone. At Sanctuaries of Learning, we believe all students deserve to feel seen, challenged, and supported, including those who show high levels of ability or performance. Now, more and more schools have been asking me for support around this area, especially in light of the department's focus on high potential and gifted education policy. There's a strong system push, but also a real desire among school leaders and teachers to move beyond compliance and towards practices that genuinely stretch our students and support our high-performing students. So in this issue, we're diving into what it really means to differentiate for high-performing students in ways that are rigorous, sustainable, and deeply rooted in inclusive practice. First up, we have Dr. Barbara Blackburn, who we're so grateful to have with us. She is a renowned education consultant, author, speaker, and known for her expertise in student growth, professional development, and raising the level of rigor in education. Our former teacher, principal, and university professor, Barbara, has written over 30 books, I'm sure it's more than that now, of teaching and leadership that are widely used in schools around the world. We also have Lee Englefield, who is the principal of Wonji Wonji Public School in Lake Macquarie, with over 26 years in education across large metropolitan and regional settings. He has worked as a teacher, assistant principal, deputy, and also served as a literacy and numeracy strategy advisor, leading statewide professional learning and strategic support for schools focused on best practice, the learning progressions, and Plan 2. So welcome, Lee. Happy to have you here.
Thanks, Steph, for that very warm introduction.
Interruption?
Interruption. It could be that. Let's see how we go.
And Hannah Bullivant, is that correct? Yeah. And she's the Assistant Principal Curriculum and Instruction at Wonji Wonji Public School. She's worked across a number of primary schools in the Hunter, Newcastle, and Lake Macquarie regions during her 11 years with the department. Driven by the values of clarity, intentionality, and consistency, she supports her staff to embody these drivers so that they can be the best for their students. So.
In fact, rigor is expecting students to learn at high levels, supporting them so they can learn at high levels, and then they demonstrate learning at high levels. And again, one of the things that I find is that people have so many misconceptions, they don't really get to the heart of what rigor is. So I'll have people say, but rigor's not for year one students. Yes, primary students can do rigor. Well, it's not for students with special needs. Yes, it is. They can absolutely do it with the right support. So it's more about believing and implementing that each student can start where they are, but that you can take them to this new higher place. And I'll tell you one of the other real misconceptions that I see specifically with high achieving students is that oftentimes those students are challenged creatively, but they are not challenged academically. So they may do this massive creative project. I saw one the other day. It was a great creative project with technology and all kinds of things. But what the students were doing was reading and summarizing, and that's not rigorous.
Students. It's not about more of the same. It's actually about different. It's about us understanding what their gifted traits and characteristics are or where their potential lies. So it's not more, it's different. It's new learning. It's really about expanding their current understanding to move them on to higher levels of learning. Having HPG on our agenda, but it's also carefully considered in our explicit planning and programming in our teaching, which is where Hannah comes in, where we have taken what has been considered a mathematical lens regarding creating extending prompts for our students, but starting to use that terminology in our planning, through our questioning, through our daily reviews, so that it is rigorous in terms of all of our students having access to these extension opportunities that are part of the curriculum. It's not just an extra.
My job is to make sure that every classroom has opportunities for all students to have high expectations and then to further themselves even more, I suppose, than what teachers would expect them to be able to achieve. So not having separate learning intentions and success criteria for students that aren't achieving at that level, but giving them leveraging or enabling prompts to be able to access that the same as the whole class. We have a lot of systems in place to do with growth mindset and learning mindsets. So all of our students embrace challenge, and we reward that and praise that. It's a part of our whole school values as well. So we always say, have you got a crunchy eyebrows or a sweaty brain? And our motto here, our school color is red, and we say we have a red hot go. So
every case, but too often teachers will tell me they have high expectations, but then when I watch them, they don't. And it's everything from, dumbing down what we're asking students to do to accepting less. And one of the things that drives me crazy is when we use language to reflect our expectations in ways that are not positive. So, for example, when we say, we're in the workroom and we say, oh, Jeffrey isn't doing well today, but I don't know that surprises me because honestly, his brother was so much smarter than he was. Or I don't know why I should be surprised about this because she's just a special needs student. Whenever there's a meeting, whether it's whole faculty or a team or a department or a grade level, that they start by having people go around and say something positive about a student. Because too often what happens is they start with, you're not going to believe what happened to me today in my classroom. And then it just goes from there. And that's not effective. And when we start with our language, then we start to believe they can do more. Therefore, we start to ask them to do more. And then we really do have to have a clear criteria of what rigor looks like. When I partner with schools, I have a rubric that I give them. And so it's very specific as to what is just developing and what is rigorous.
And we took a theory called the tip of the iceberg theory, where we actually looked at the most formal representations of mathematical learning for each stage. So when we looked at, for example, the most formal representation of place value with addition and subtraction for year 1 and year 2, what does our syllabus say? And then what is the underlying components to actually get our students to that most formal representation? So we actually spent quite a period of time developing our curriculum knowledge, our rigor around our curriculum expectations and the stepping stones, the milestones to get our students there. But then what that led to in terms of mathematics was also what Steph has referred to, and I know we certainly do here, is our horizontal knowledge. What is beyond that formal expectation for year 1? What is the next stepping stone? So what that led to was a deep focus on curriculum knowledge, getting our depth of understanding as a team. It actually led to our teachers creating differentiated learning intentions and success criteria. This is where I want to get all of you to, but this is where we want to push beyond within our individual lessons and our individual structures. It led our teachers to ensuring that they were creating parallel learning tasks for students to actually consider where they were at in terms of challenging themselves. It also led to some more work around what we were doing in mathematics regarding rich and challenging tasks for all students, with extending prompts to push those students beyond their level of understanding, but also to develop enabling prompts to give our lower achieving students access to those same rich tasks.
So where you want to go to in math, in terms of rigor, is the notion of recognizing and explaining misconceptions. So that means that once students have learned something, then you give them 3 problems that are already solved. And they have to determine which one is not correct, explain why it's not correct, solve it correctly, and explain why it's correct now. And I will immediately have people on the other end of the spectrum say to me, oh, but my special needs students could not do that. They absolutely can. They just need extra modeling, and you give them 2 to choose from. So you're going to narrow their choices a little bit. But here's what you're going to do with the high performing and gifted students. I'm going to give them 4 to choose from, and I'm not going to tell them how many are incorrect. and they have to figure out how many are incorrect and then do the same process. But I can have everybody work on a rigorous skill in a way that best suits their needs, and in a way that if I'm a teacher in a classroom, that's very manageable. That is. I think sometimes we're so focused on what isn't working that we don't focus on what is working. So, for example, my favorite leadership strategy is called name it, claim it, and explain it. And what happens is when you're out in the building, you see somebody doing something great. Don't pick your high flying teacher. Find somebody that's just good middle of the road or a struggling teacher who's doing something right. Take a picture or take a video. At your next faculty meeting, you start your meeting not with an agenda or even a welcome. You start with what you see up on the screen as an example of best practice. This is what we are trying to do in our school, and this person is doing it. So whoever it belongs to, I want you to name it and claim it as yours, and then explain it to the rest of us. And I've also had people do that just via email, where they send out an email to everybody, a school-wide email, same thing, and the person has to hit reply all and explain it. But again, you got to warn them, because otherwise they're sort of off their game when you're wanting to stand up and explain something. So always make sure you tell them you're going to do it. And again, you're celebrating what's right. And the more we celebrate the good, then the more it sticks in terms of sustainability.
And that investment in time, that investment in giving teachers the opportunities to self-identify what their problem of practice is, or for teachers to with Hannah's support, to self-identify what their problem of practice is with certain initiatives that we've been trying to implement as a whole school.
I think we made a big shift on what we should do to what we could do. So we look at our programs, look at the opportunities that we are offering our students, and do things like look at the type of task like Barb referred to before and say, is there a better type of task that could provide this opportunity for all students? Are they only closed-ended tasks? Are they open-ended? Are they actually catering to the explicit learning that you're teaching? Or is it just a routine task that you know? And is it eliciting the right information? So we really stripped things back, and we thought, what do we want to see in the kids? What do you want to see in the teachers? And how are we going to get there? And we made.
This is really the number one thing that I look at is the tasks or the assignments or the assessments, whatever that is, the tasks that they are being asked to do. I can look at a task and very quickly determine if it's rigorous or not. Again, I use the rubric, but there are some key things that I really pay attention to. You talked about pushing students beyond the text. They have to really go to that horizon. That's a really important piece. A lot of people don't do that. And so I really want to look at what kinds of things are happening. Is it truly rigorous, or is it just a lot of stuff? What I look at is what expectations are being reflected in terms of what they're being asked to do. And the most concrete way you can do that is through a task or an assignment. And then look at what are the students actually doing. Are they doing that task at that level, or are they, as you said earlier, being asked a higher level question and answering a low level answer? That's not what you're looking for.
Positivity would probably be the overarching term, and kids believing that they can do the work. Our staff are engaged and motivated in what they are doing daily. The hallway conversations that are often the unofficial metric are positive and rich, with teachers sharing practice. It's not having a whinge around the staff room table. It's sharing achievements of things that they've been doing in the classroom, their hopes and their aspirations for new lessons.
And I have a lot of kids on the playground come and ask me for extension in their learning. So I champion spelling across the school, for example, and I've got kids in year 5 and 6 saying, oh, miss, I know a 14 phoneme word. Can I spell it for you? This is the background. This is the etymology. Or I remember you gave me a challenge spelling word. I still don't know the answer to that. Can you give me one more clue? So I'm just on playground duty and kids are coming and asking for extension and challenge from me.
Now, if you're looking for practical next steps, I am going to, Lee and Hannah are going to share with me their resources to share with you, aren't you? Their iceberg, their talk moves and other things. But Barbara Blackburn's books are a great place to start as well. So she has Scaffolding for Success, helping learners meet rigorous expectations across the curriculum. And like I said, it's packed with many ready-to-use strategies that even stretched my thinking. And her newly released 4th edition of Rigor is Not a Four-Letter Word offers even more tools for raising expectations while supporting every learner. So please check those out. Thank you so much for watching, and please contact us if you have any questions or would like to collaborate. Thank you, everyone.